This episode of the WYcast is sponsored by Buy My Fucking Album. So, buy my fucking album. www.exp.uk. Nice one. Hello, my name's ExP. I'm a hip-hop MC, producer, engineer and general musician based in Leeds, West Yorkshire. Those that know me know I have a lot of time for West Yorkshire-based musicians, and since my days running and hosting the WY Cypher, I've tried to always champion the local community while also maintaining my rapper arrogance that everyone but me is whack and they should all quit. But also maintaining my non-existent self-esteem that I'm actually the wackest around and I should quit. One thing that always reminds me that it's just sick to make music and be a part of WY is talking to other musicians, but in person and not on social media. After convincing myself podcasts are a waste of valuable music listening time, I decided to do one anyway, as at least this way you're listening to good musicians based in or affiliated with the West Yorkshire hip-hop scene, and I'll be expanding that out to soul and jazz musicians as well over time. I'll be talking to people I know, and hopefully those I don't as well, to speak to them about their music and their association with WY West Yorkshire. And just a side thing, I'm going to be constantly saying WY, WY, West Yorkshire, and interchanging them. So just get over it. And on this episode, we've got a guy who needs no introduction, even though it's a massive cliche, because this is an introduction. It's Jack Flash, aka Rob Bradley, and he's going back to Jack Flash again. Man, some of these, I'm just we had such a good chat here. It was so great to catch up with him. The guy's a phenomenal lyricist, producer, freestyler, you name it. The guy's done everything, and we work through a lot of it in this podcast as well. And even to the point where somehow we end up talking about my therapy. So let's go. Rob Bradley, let's fucking get into it. Right. It's an absolute joy to have you in Huddersfield Centre with Harold. Who the fuck was Harold Wilson? Prime Minister?
Yeah, he was a Prime Minister.
74 to 76 and shit. As you said when you came in.
He was a Labour politician. So
was he Labour?
Have that right, yeah.
Oh, at least it's Labour then. That's pretty sick.
Yeah,
fair play.
Yeah.
Bro, these are tricky, right? Because some of these podcasts I'm like just chatting to people I feel are on a level where either peers or even people maybe who are in a generation below us. But sometimes it's going to be a bit of a we are not worthy moment, and I feel that way with you, man, because the whole time in my career while I've been rapping, I feel like I've been doing that with you and just been like, there he is.
Well,
next level in it on everything. I feel like ZX Spectrum and someone invented the Apple, do you know what I mean? Like with you, like,
man.
It's always felt like that, and it's a fucking honour to have you on, man, and chat to you, bro. I mean, listening to your music recently, man, and sort of going as far back as I can to like listen to that original shit. And what you were putting albums out like super early on. When did you first get rapping? We're going to do the origin story first, if that's all right. What was the journey to your first bars, man?
I was born in a cryogenic egg and hatched out about... it's mad that you've said that, because not even that long ago, like a couple of nights ago, I found myself, because I've got new music coming out.
Yeah.
I went back to my old Bandcamp page, and I was looking at the stats of what got played. It took me back to the very first mixtape that I put out, which must have been 2005, like 18.
Okay, yeah, right, okay.
This mixtape's called Calm Before the Storm.
Yeah, I remember it.
Amazing. And, someone came up to me at a gig the other week and said, oh, man, I've been listening to Calm Before the Storm still, like I know all the bars for that. And that just blows my mind, because I think, wow. And I listen back to that now as a 37-year-old, and I just think, man, everything was there as an 18-year-old.
I'm going to say, it was.
Like, I'm not even doing anything that drastically different now. Like, fundamentally. I know there's shifts, evolutions, and all the rest of it, as expected. But, man, going back to that stuff, it was all there.
You did seem to come out of the womb sick, and I don't know why you got that.
Bro, for me, it was like the years of 16 to 18. That's when it all just took off. And, like, in terms of, like, I was starting to write and play around with it, and then all of a sudden I could write. Like, and then when I could write, I got obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Just wrote.
Carved out a crazy name for yourself, like early doors as well. First I ever heard of you, a friend of mine was going to a battle in Leeds. I can't remember who ran it. It was Nabil though. He was called maybe Mr. No at the time. He's not my mate anymore, unfortunately. And that was his choice though. But the people were talking. Did you maybe win that one, or maybe you came second or something? There was another guy with glasses who was quite useful at the time back then. But you were like, must have been 15, 16 during that thing. Yeah.
16, man. It was my first time.
Yeah.
I think my first proper time. Definitely my first time outside of Huddersfield and little circles in Huddersfield rhyming in front of anyone.
Yeah.
Completely bit off more than I could chew. I didn't know what I was doing. I just saw this battle. There was a freestyle battle, and I'd been freestyling with my friends. That's all I'd done. Right?
Yeah.
And when I'm talking about freestyling, I'm talking about off the top freestyling.
Yeah. Real freestyling.
And this was a big battle that had got funded by, I think, Universal or something, because 8 Mile had been out at the time.
Right.
So it was on the back of that promotion thing, right?
Yeah.
And they were doing different heats all around the country. So I signed up to this one in Leeds. Battlescars, that was the promotion.
Battlescars, yes. Good memory.
Yeah, so I'll tell you why I remember that now. Well, I'll get onto that. So anyway, I signed up for it, didn't know what I was doing. Was too young to be in the club at 16, easily the youngest person there. Just so glad that I went into it naively, because that just meant I just went firing. Yeah. And the first time I freestyled in front of an audience and they popped at a lyric, it blew my mind off.
And that was the first time you'd ever done that at that time?
Yeah.
Fuck, man, because I remember being told the story. It was Mr. Ed was coaching one of the rappers who ended up battling you, maybe. Okay. And he was getting the battler to order his train ticket with the conductor in freestyle. So everyone was like trying to bring their A game.
Yeah, okay. I remember that night, man. I remember it so vividly. Like, Sonny Jim was outside in the line.
Jeez.
And I remember he was like freestyle battling people outside, and I was there watching, be like, I'm not doing this because I'm not using all my lines up. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not in the line.
Yeah.
And I remember Chief Wiggs, that was the first time I met Wiggs, was there. And a guy called Lazy won it, who I don't know where he is.
Lazy, that were right.
But anyway, it was me and him in the final.
Right.
And then I was just burnt out, basically. I'd flown this whole kind of naive thing all night, and just flown. And then I just crashed and burned because it was too much for me. But the next morning, I specifically remember walking to my friend's house and just being absolutely like blown away by what had just happened the night before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, as if that can be part of your life. That's what it felt like. And then it was that moment that I was like, I'm addicted to this now.
Yeah,
like, I mean?
yeah.
Not necessarily battling, but definitely like this journey of MCing and all the rest of it.
Yeah, I'd say more than most rappers in the UK, but like certainly West Yorkshire, freestyles always seem to form a really important core of what you do and how you came up and stuff. And I'm interested in that journey because from the stories I hear, it was you and kind of Shedmen doing a lot of freestyling. So you kind of came up with Imran, Dan, and maybe Illis as well. Was that where you sort of a lot of your freestyles, your rawest freestyles happened?
No, I would say actually probably not. My most drunk freestyles happened with them guys. Probably a little bit later when I was more into my 20s and stuff, and we would just be out on nights out. Yeah. It would be like, there was a whole period of my life when I went out on nights out, and I didn't want to be on the nights out, but the training that your brain goes through when you grow up here is that you go out on a night out.
It's what you do, innit?
And you get
Fridays.
More drunk than you actually want to get, and all the rest of it.
Yeah,
you fall into this nasty little cycle. And one of the ways that I guess we were coping with it was like our creativity was probably fighting against that indoctrination.
Yeah.
And that's what we do, is like get to a certain point where it was just freestyling.
Nice.
Because we weren't about to dance, man. I'm not like that dancer person, and we weren't, like, if I'm honest, I didn't know it at the time, but loud clubs like that probably actually aggravate me. Yeah. And I didn't know it. I just felt uncomfortable, and then freestyling in a club felt comfortable. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I do, yeah.
Touching your creativity, touching your music, wherever you are. So that, I think, when I think about that with Imran, specifically, we used to. Oh no, I forget this is being recorded, so I won't talk too much about the lyrics that we used to say. But there was some funny bars that we used to trade back and forward. Yeah. Yeah, man. Nice. And
we, because you took up. I'll just go on record and say you took up a lot of real estate in my head prior to when we started the WY Cypher, just because like I'd be like just about squeezing an album out, just be like, oh, that took a lot of effort, and then you'd be like smashing it, doing a track with Jest and shit, and it's like, who's this fucking Jack Flash guy? You know what I mean? There's often that way with
antagonist.
rappers. A lot of times with rappers, I don't know, you've probably not felt this as much because you must be looking down a lot. But
not at all.
Seeing other rappers like come through and you're like, whoa, shit, man, how do I make the sort of moves and that? But it wasn't until, but what I found amazing was like, we were sort of chatting, I can't remember why, on and off, but like when I was like, let's do a freestyle night, and well, let's have a freestyle practice round mine, which is how this WY Cypher started.
Yeah.
And you were at that very, very first one, which we weren't even meant to record. It was just that Paul Cockcroft came through with the camera and sort of filmed it.
Yeah.
And that ended up being a cypher. But I was I'm impressed. Basically, you were happy to just come across from Hoods, not really knowing me, because it was time for a freestyle, you know what I mean? And you always seem like you've had that like passion for off the top. Is it because you know people react the way they do when you do it, or
no,
you
it's
just
because
like love it?
Yeah, I get so much satisfaction from it.
Yeah.
That it's so satisfying for my brain to freestyle and to meet other people who are even willing to give freestyling a go. Is a buzz.
Yeah.
Because it's like you don't often get that, especially now. Freestyling feels like it's very funny because I've never seen it as mainstream in like Harry Mack.
Yeah, that's as much as he's got, really. Yeah.
But I don't see that many rappers wanting to do it. You know, the way that music is understood now is, and I think it's getting even less and less grassroots and live, and even more and more pre-packaged, working on the whole visual aspect of it and putting it out online.
Make sure your brand's right and that.
Yeah, exactly, which is good and which is fine, you know, and it makes everybody into a rapper / entrepreneur and everything.
Yeah.
Cool. But like, there's something about that raw experience of actually just rhyming.
Right there and then,
yeah,
innit?
and with nothing. Like the whole thing about hip hop, and this is why I think about it, it's about being resourceful.
Yeah.
Like it always has been in its origins. Like before, when it was first hatched as an idea, before it was even called anything, it was about being resourceful with the electricity that you could get, with the turntables that you could get, with the breaks.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about freestyling, it's the epitome of resourcefulness. Even a beatboxer.
Yeah, because if you freestyle a beatboxer, you don't need anything.
Nothing,
innit? Like,
right?
Yeah.
And all the young rappers that are coming up and learning how to do it, normally with cracked software, and just trying to find any time in their whatever their day job where they can maybe get some bars down, or at college or wherever they are.
Yeah.
It's all about resourcefulness, you know, like just trying to get my thing together,
Yeah,
recording it, putting it out. Freestyling for me is the epitome of that, but it's also the epitome of thinking at your most focused.
Yeah, disappearing off, because it's really up there somewhere, innit? It's not where it's not seeing that person walk past or anything. It's like, and the reason, because I was desperate to get good at it. I've always done it on stage, and I think I'm better live freestyling in front of a crowd. Partially because if you don't know what's going to rhyme, you can go like no fucking knows. But like live without a mic, it's like a lot more daunting. But often I get in my own way, because even if I'm like, oh, that was a good bar, I fucked it. At the point I'm like, that was good, everything's fucked, because I'm like, I should have been thinking about the next bar and I'm not. So and somehow you never seem to get in your own way. You seem to be like chess moves ahead with freestyle.
Another reason why I love it is because it's a pursuit which you can chase for the whole of your life to master.
Yes.
Like it doesn't get boring.
Nah.
Because what you're explaining there is saying, okay, right, now I've had a thought, I've said it, but now I'm lingering on that thought, and then that's interrupting my next thought.
Yeah.
Well, then you actually have to train yourself. How do I just go
Black that
all the way
out,
through?
yeah.
And it's training. It's actually training, and it's deep. And I don't feel like I'm great at it. That's what's mad about the whole thing. The amount of people tell me that I am really good at freestyling.
I got a record to say best in the UK, but I haven't met everyone in the UK, but I think you're best in the UK. I haven't seen a better freestyler in the UK.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I was sort of having a conversation with you. This is just, I don't want to big your ego up the whole day, because it's just going to be ridiculous.
It's not like that, I promise you. Yeah.
Like, seeing Harry Mack and what he's done with it, you could piss that out.
He's ridiculous.
He's ridiculous with it, but the Ribbolay guy, he's got a different kind of vibe. He's freestyling as well, but like it's with the music and stuff. But just the guy, I remember seeing Harry Mack like walking down a queue of people to a gig, and he's just freestyling about him. But I'm like, I've seen Flash do that, and
sure,
then next
you have.
level in it. Like,
yeah, you have stuff like that. The reason that Harry Mack's so ridiculous is because he has every bass covered.
I see.
So like, if you put on any tempo beat, he'll find a pocket and a rhythm in it, and it's flawless.
Yeah.
Like, when I found out that he's a drummer, and and his process for learning freestyle was similar to how he learned how to drum, that changed things for me, because I thought, man, yes, there's a massive rhythmic aspect to freestyling, right?
Yeah.
But his brain must be so tied in with the actual, like, having a visual reference for how you drum, and then also being able to tie that onto your language.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of the way I freestyle is just like jumping and instinct.
Yeah.
But I know, watching some of his videos, and I don't obsess over him. I haven't
but it's
studied him,
interesting to
but
see.
I've watched a few,
It's a model, isn't it, as well?
It's a model, and it's a guy who's taken it to a place that I don't think we've seen anybody else take it, which makes it interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, listening to some of the way that he learns, it's like, yeah, his musicianship and his freestyle ability are in bed with each other. They're very much tied in together.
Nice.
So, yeah, so that's a good thing. That's why I think he's so ridiculous, because Yeah, I'm good at freestyling. I can confidently say that.
Yeah.
And I can also see that I can get better at freestyling.
Do you get much space to do it in your day-to-day these days?
Yeah.
As I understand it, your main source of income at the moment is like teaching hip-hop.
Yeah.
To going into schools and doing it. Similar sort of, not similar, but we were back in the day. There was a guy called Phil who got me on board doing a bit of teaching in schools and got you on board and sort of very basic ropes, but like still going to schools. And now, and what are you doing? Are you doing it at that level, going to primary schools, secondary schools, or whatever? Working for what's the? Are you sort of introducing your own curriculum with it, or are you just going in on certain days? What's the crack, or this, that, and everything?
Yeah. This, that, and everything.
Nice.
Definitely shout out to Phil and Marcus Pipeline.
Yeah.
They took us, and that was great. That was one of the first times I think we met. Was they took us into schools. I was a bit too young to actually know what I was doing, and when I say know what I was doing, at that stage when we used to go into schools, I was about an artist.
Yeah.
I wanted it all to be about me.
So
the thing that clicked a few years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, when I started doing it again, was that it's about them and it's about me using what I know to help them.
Yeah.
And as soon as that clicked, it was like, man, I can have so much fun with this because I can design a workshop and design a program and design a project, whatever I'm working on, and I can do it in a way that would satisfy me because I know that it's me giving back, but the whole thing has to feed into each other. It's not just about I'm going to perform for you, tell me how sick I am.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. What I do start every session off with a freestyle, but I've done my very best to make that freestyle about them. So it's about the words they give me. It's about breaking the words down. It's about bringing them into the performance, like getting volunteers up, creating a chorus with them, all that kind of stuff.
Amazing.
Then that's just how we start the session off. And then the rest of it, I've designed different ways of how to teach rap, essentially, which makes sense to me. And I've really tried to refine it to the point where it's really clear so that it's accessible to everyone. Because I do go from everywhere, like up and down the country, primary school kids, SEN schools, PRUs, secondary schools, everywhere, man. I've even done a stag do, which was amazing. That was fun. So
where do nerves come in for you, bro? Because of all the rappers I've ever met, I don't ever think I've ever seen you look even slightly phased.
Good poker face. That's
is
all
it poker face? Is there a lot going on underneath? Because honestly, bro, I just assume. Because for example, going to a stag do, fuck that. You know what I mean? I'm like, no, I don't want to be in this environment.
I had a lot of fun, man. I've got a compulsion that sometimes when I think some things are quite uncomfortable to do, I have to go and do them. That's not the same as like doing something for the sake of it being uncomfortable. But if a challenge presents itself, and if there's a part of me that says you could and you should, and if I don't, I feel like that's a real failure.
Life begins outside your comfort zone, sort of thing.
Yeah,
that
kind of thing. I mean, I grew up as quite a quiet kid, I think. So learning to even stand on stage and perform in front of people.
Is that natural? Did you like people should be
listening
to me, or
no? It was a compulsion. It was a force. It was like I need to get up there and do that. I can't tell you why I need to.
No, I know what you mean.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
even if it's out of like a family member or someone could say, "Oh, that's out of character." If you're going to look at all your extended family and say which one's going to be the performer, I don't know if they pick me. You know what I mean? But it's always felt like a just personal mission that I need to go and do. Yeah. And in that way, I think that's life living itself through me. Do you know what I mean? Rather than me choosing to do it. So where do nerves play into it? They exist, but they're never like at the forefront. They're never at the forefront.
And they don't fuck with you, and they don't tend to mess with you or all like that. Because I'll just get in my own head about stuff a lot of the time.
Done, though. I'm a massive overthinker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I overthink.
You can prepare for it in that case, like.
Sometimes you just need to jump, though. Do you know what I mean? Like if you sign up for something, you got to see it through.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. And you got to give it the best job in it. There's nothing worse than like sort of feeling shit about something, pushing through, but not feeling great about it, and then coming out the side and going, well, that was shit.
Yeah.
But like, so you have got to just jump in with both feet in a lot of cases. But
yeah, it's a really interesting question. My overthinking compulsion tends to come in the terms of like I'll overthink an idea.
Yeah.
And then I'll go into analysis paralysis. And that idea might be paralyzed for like a year or two. Do Do you know what I mean? And then I'll either act on it or I just will let it die.
So I guess that's the beauty of performance and freestyling as well, because there's no chance. You just got to get out there. You can't be analysis by paralysis.
No, exactly, and that's what I mean. What freestyling actually does is it takes me completely out of that mindset.
Yeah, you don't even have to overthink anything.
Exactly, man, and that's beautiful. Yeah, so I do get to do it a lot. I do it every day when I go and do the schools. Normally I do it in the car as well.
Nice.
So I've got a lot of driving to do.
Yeah.
And I try and do it in the car.
How do you find the reception then? Because it's funny, like, have you gained many fans from like doing the freestyle thing? Because only recently, well, it was about a year ago, but I saw you were doing like 2 words or a few words flashing up on a screen and sort of freestyling with it. Are you finding the reaction to that stuff is greater and that you're getting more fans as a result of it, or do people just want the music?
It's different, man. I think it's a different thing. There are people who just get what I'm doing and they're tuned in and they're taking the whole ecosystem of it. And then there's a more casual that's looking at it like, I'm trying to be Harry Mack, and you're like,
motherfucker,
come on.
I invented Harry Mack.
People were doing this before the one main reference that you know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not just me, you know, like, but a whole culture. Like when I was growing up, it was people like Super Nat. And
yeah.
And actually, someone I watched the other day, Blind Fury, that guy. I don't know if you've seen him. He used to be a battle rapper on some MTV show back in the day. Right. But he does freestyles, and he's actually blind, so he doesn't have any sight. But he's an amazing freestyler.
Sometimes I think without sight, that would probably be quite useful, because it'd be one less thing to worry about.
Maybe,
as I say, sensory wise, when you're freestyling, like you take too much in, and it's a game over. So blind would probably be relatively helpful.
I mean, it does help a lot of the time when I close my eyes and I perform.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just because you're focused on what's going on and you're not distracted by all the rest of the stuff.
Totally.
But yeah, so no, it's a good question. I think it's different, man. Like, so what you're referring to is a load of videos I put out in summer when I just had loads of time.
Yeah.
So I made a ton of freestyle videos, and I'm going to pick them up, but I'm going to do it a little bit more sustainably. I put like a load of freestyle videos out every 2 or 3 days. Yeah. I'm just going to start putting out one a month, like a long one.
Nice.
And that's going to be my freestyle contribution.
Because you're like the complete article, really. Because I remember when Eminem put a book out years ago, and there used to be like such and such freestyle, and there was even a time where growing up you were like, oh, that's a freestyle, but nah, it wasn't. And I remember Eminem putting a book going, no one who says freestyle is ever freestyling, it's always prepared bars. And there seems to be like, in hip-hop culture, we've almost watered down the word freestyle so that it doesn't have any weight. I'm going to drop a quick freestyle from you, here's my 64, you know what I mean? Like, and people know it's coming, and as a result it's kind of get watered down. But I was, but you've got, as well as that element, like your music's been fucking sick since day dot, as we were saying, 16 to 18 onwards. It's just been like amazing. And I remember chatting to a friend of yours and an enemy of mine, Paul Heritage, DJ Heritage, when he was living with Jake, and we were just, I can't remember why we got onto you as a topic of conversation, and we were both like, it's a matter of time. Before your fucking loyal Kana or example or something like that. Example's a bit of a swear word maybe, but the truth of the matter is he was a rapper, did a bit more singing with his rap, fucking, you know, big name, Great British Bake Off celebrity, especially all the rest of it. And this is a tricky question because I don't want to like put you in a position where you just have to play the victim or whatever. But why the fuck hasn't it happened for you? How the fuck haven't you? I shouldn't be talking to you now. This should be fucking Radio 1. Like, what the fuck?
Because there was a period of time where I felt like it could have done and it might have done and perhaps it was going to do, but it's just I realised how much of a lottery this music thing is, man. It's ridiculous. Like, which made me reassess why I do it and what it's all about. And I'll get onto that in a second, but none of us are owed that. You're not owed to blow up. You know what I mean? Like, you can't be that entitled about your situation. You could be really talented and you can feel like you have a lot of stars aligned, but a lot more probably have to align, you know, and some of that alignment...
Fluke circumstance, sometimes.
Because some of that alignment might be to do with before you were even born, and it might be a nepotism thing that we don't know about, and someone might just have friends, and it might be a location of where you're born and where your resources are and what you can access. When I lived in London, I realised how, and this is not to say that everyone in London is going to blow up, because that's not the case either, but it's just that there were people who had a root, and a way and support.
Well, there's an industry in London. You can get on the radios there. You can get on the record labels. You can get on the shows and stuff.
Whereas here, you have to spend a number of years. You're doing what? You're rapping. What's that about? You know what I mean? Like, you have to battle so many barriers before you even get to the entry point. And then you get down to London, and then you have to get over the fact that it's London and it's completely different, and you have to learn that language. And there's a lot of barriers around that. That's not the reason that we haven't blown up, but it all factors into it. There's a lot of talented MCs and a lot of people that could and should, and in another world would have done, but didn't. We all are where we are. Anything can still happen,
of course.
And you know, I think the real reason that you make music, of course, you're motivated by trying to make a living off it. But the real reason I make music is because I'm intrinsically motivated to make it.
You love it,
and I can't stop doing that. That's my main mode of self-expression.
Yeah, I see.
To make that combine with a successful commercial enterprise is a lot.
How did you find being in London for the time? You were down there for what, five or so years?
Yeah,
were you?
About 5 or 6 years. Yeah.
And how did you find? Were you always trying to like look for the next possible opportunity down there, or were you just sort of going with the flow and seeing what happened?
A bit of both.
Yeah.
Over that 5 or 6 years. The first couple of years, I was very hungry and not doing a lot of stuff and all kinds of stuff. But it also just coincided with a time in life where I think I was just getting a little bit older, and I was trying to think about like sustainability and what the future looks like and all that kind of stuff, and then kind of coming to the terms of the fact that, man, I'm just renting a little space down here, and now I'm working to do that, and then you get into that cycle. But I loved it. Like, this is where you and I might differ. I don't know, just listening to your music and having some conversations with you about it in the past. I actually really buzz off London. Like, I love it as a place. But yeah, it just couldn't last forever. And then the pandemic happened, and then I moved back out of it and all that. But I'm primarily moved down to London, not because I thought, right, I'm going to move down to London and then, you know, the streets are paved with gold and I'll get signed. But I moved down there because I thought, man, if I just think about putting myself out there, then there's more opportunities that will just flock to you. And I don't know what those are, but they're unseen. And I'll come across people and I meet people. And that's exactly what happened. So I got to do a load of stuff, a load of gigs that I'd never done, met a load of people, collaborations with people. And
they're still in the address book and stuff. Like, are you down there every so often anyway, doing your thing? Like,
yeah, exactly. And that doesn't change. And I've got friends probably for life down there now. So, but I think I did muddy the water by changing my name at a certain point.
Yeah, do you know, I'm glad you brought me onto that, because I'm literally about to ask you about that. Because obviously Jack Flash came about, obviously. If you listen to the music, Jack Flash came about because it was a strain of weed and it was on a random thing when you were young. And then there's obviously that Rob Bradley song which sort of alludes to the fact that you changed it. And there's and sort of a cringe looking back on it. And then I'm sure you used the word cringe in that song. Maybe you didn't.
I cringed at the accent that I was using.
Right, that was it. Yeah.
So this is, did you have
and the question being, you only recently sort of went, do you know what? Jack Flash is back, baby. What was you thinking behind that after spending all that time building the Rob Bradley brand? Or were you thinking like Rob Bradley's a certain style, Jack Flash is a certain style, is it?
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to being an overthinker. I overthought it all. I built this Jack Flash thing, and once you are known in people's mind, it's out of your hands. Yeah,
of course. Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
It's art, innit? It's out there.
And people know you as Jack Flash, and that's what they're going to relate to. The thing is, if you are lucky enough to have resonance with your music for someone else, and they know you and they remember you, cool. Don't rock the boat.
Yes,
that's what I should have known. But what I was trying to do was just kind of signal an evolution of where I thought, you know, like with Rob Bradley, it's a little bit more mature. I want to leave a persona.
The music specifically did feel more mature from Rob Bradley onwards, like, and it felt like you had more control, because I feel like you were doing more collaborative. People were making beats for you, you know, your wizards on a whole album and all the rest of it. Whereas from Rob Bradley onwards, it felt like you were the producer of everything. Right. Like,
So, I realized I started to play with this idea of changing it back about a year ago. Thinking, man, you know, the Jack Flash thing, maybe it's not as deep as I was thinking, because maybe it's not you defined by that name, and it's just a name that you use that people know you by. And I was trying to signal something, but also I was doing a lot of work in schools, and it just felt appropriate to be Rob Bradley. I'd written a book of poetry. It was like, that was all Rob Bradley. It was, and I think what I've learned now is, like, my music is Jack Flash. That's and I just accept that's what I am and who I am. And you know, snapping it back is kind of just saying, I never really left it, but I found myself in a room last year where a lot of people knew me as Jack Flash and didn't even know I'd changed the name. So the message hadn't even travelled, you know, and they just perhaps thought I hadn't been doing anything for a number of years.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like, whatever, just move it back. No one even knows. It's still Jack Flash.
Is it permanently moving back? Will there be Rob Bradley projects?
I think there might. If I write another book, I'll probably do it as Rob Bradley and maybe AKA Jack Flash. But the music needs to be Jack Flash. It always has been, and I want to connect it. You know, all that work back in 16 to 18.
It's still on there.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I want that lineage to be there.
Of course.
So even though now, the new music's got a lot of the characteristics you're talking about. I produced it.
Yep.
It feels a little bit more insightful and all the rest of it. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
That's now you're just following Jack Flash. Do you know what I mean?
Thank
and
you.
we live in this algorithmic world where it's like you can really shoot yourself in the foot. The algorithm that everybody puts as high praise doesn't actually know that that's the same person.
No,
you know
of
what I mean?
course
It's going off characters.
Yeah.
J-A-C-K.
Only if loads of people who listen to Rob Bradley listen to Jack Flash or whatever, and then it'll join the dots, but only a little bit. Yeah. Still,
but it still doesn't.
You don't
know.
get any power over that though.
No, exactly. So basically, that's a long, overthought whole experiment that ended up in the same place I started.
Yeah. That's nice.
Like
though.
a lot of good stories do.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think people still refer to you as Flash. They always
exactly.
are. Like,
I
which
can't
pissed
get
me
away
off.
with that.
I was always Ben, and here comes Flash. Motherfuckers. What was I going to say? Yeah, next. So we were talking maybe up to about 8 months ago, I feel, and you already had a whole album in the can. Yeah. Was this low-hanging fruit that's just come out a
that's
track
the
from
first single off it,
okay, so we're starting to tease the new album then.
Exactly.
And this will be a Jack Flash album?
Exactly that.
Nice. And where are you at now? Because I was like sending you links to cheap vinyl pressing and shit. Are you at the point of album, artwork and ready to put on vinyl? Or?
No, I've got a little bit of a plan, but it's a bit fluid. So I'm actually just starting to drop stuff and seeing where it goes. And I don't know if I'm going to do a crowdfunding thing like we spoke about doing it. Because I'd love to get the... I've got a little bit of funding for this album, but I've pretty much... That's all been allocated and used.
Yeah.
But I'd love to get vinyl done. I've never had a vinyl album. I've had
really?
I've had vinyl singles and never had a vinyl album.
Mental! Fair play. Yeah. Oh, that'll be exciting. Then the first ever one, man. Jeez.
So I might do that crowdfunding thing and see how that goes.
Can you get anyone on the blower for that? Like because I feel like you more than anyone else I really know rapper-wise seem to have all these contacts. Obviously alluded to Sonny Jim back in the day, but you've done tracks with Jest over the time. Is there anyone, can you not holler a record label potentially, or would you want more control than handing it over to First Word Records or something? I don't know. Just not an avenue you've...
Just... Yeah.
If I was running Synoptic now, I'd be like, right, okay,
let's do it.
Let's talk money.
Yeah.
Because it feels like it's they're gonna sell. It's not like you've got a massive fan base.
I think for me, I've always just thought this can be done at this scale. Can just be done by myself.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like
same. Yeah.
When I first started to put out music, I was working with Ammon, who ran Klinik Records.
Right. Yeah.
Which was a little independent imprint that he was starting up. And then we basically, he had a bit of a team and the team fell apart and it ended up being me and him.
Right.
And we ran it together. And I just thought, man, this is so achievable just doing it. Even if you've got an extra pair of hands, another person, it helps. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously.
You have that rare thing for a rapper or a musician of having their shit together. Very few do.
I'm glad people
are looking for make the music and leave, you know what I mean? But you've got enough organisation. Well, you have enough, you think enough to get
too much.
Too much to get happen.
So that's why I need to be busy doing stuff.
Word.
Because if not, the thoughts destroy.
Klinik, and I remember a name that links with Klinik, Groundwurk.
Yeah, exactly. So
was that the same thing, or was that just
that was the crew. That was me, ApaTight, J Simple. These are massive figures from my very formative years.
Yeah.
ApaTight, just
incredible producer.
Incredible producer, man. Like I used to go to his flat and he used to give me beat CDs of 50 beats, and there'd be a new one every few days.
He produced for so many people in WY over the time as well, man.
Yeah.
I remember Minus coming through with some So Sincere, everyone, man. Sick beat from ApaTight.
There's a guy that you've just said all that stuff about me that could have blown and should have blown up. I feel like ApaTight could have been. especially at the time he came out, there was like Ninth Wonder and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I don't know why he hasn't, to be fair. Like, he could have gone the Beat Butcher route, you know what I mean, and just gone crazy with it at some point.
Yeah, but you know, it is what it is. Jay Simple was really instrumental in helping me understand hip hop.
You guys will almost came together as like a duo deal a lot of the times. Like if he'd often be on stage with you at a solo show or whatever.
So I helped him put together that album that he put out, the Late Night Theatre thing.
Big album.
I pretty much recorded every track with him and
did you?
Mixed it and everything. And,
nice. It still bangs to this day,
it's a good album,
I listened to it the other day,
it's
man.
a really good album.
Some great beats, some great tunes, man. He's such a good lyricist, man.
And we had a lot of fun putting that together. It was a
and
real
I
laugh.
feel, because the time when he was active, I remember seeing him on stage, solo, on his own, murdered it. No backing track, no hypes or anything like that, and just pure energy. And it felt like people around your crew almost had to bring that level of intensity.
Well, that was him, man. Like when I first saw him performing, that's what it was. Like we always remember that moment where and it's only a small moment, but it just signaled so much. He had his foot on the monitor speaker and he was leant forward and he was rapping
straight
and it
into
felt
the
like
crowd.
He was a giant, bro. It just felt like he was like over everybody, but pulling them all in. And he was just sick, man. And you know, Tabo, who is an incredible singer and collaborator and friend and has been for the longest time, will tell you a similar story about seeing Jay Simple live.
So you guys saw him live, around Hoods the first time?
Yeah, he'd be like, oh, come down, I've got a show here or whatever. Sick. And then when I was 16, we formed a little crew. There was me, ApaTight, a guy called Ruckus, who is an MC and producer.
Yeah.
And myself. And
that was Groundwurk.
That was who actually we were called United Fleet.
Oh, okay, I don't remember that.
And we did our first gigs at a club, which is actually, I can see, which is, I don't know what the building is used for now. You can't see it if you're watching, but I can see it down there. And it was called Rhythms and Indigo. And anyway, blah, blah, blah. That's the origin story. Groundwork was me, ApaTight, and Jay Simple. And then Michael Parkinson came on board.
Oh, shit, I didn't know that.
And then it just kind of fizzled out, which is mad, because life does that. And people go into different projects, and it just fizzled out. I don't know if, you know.
It's funny how these things work, innit, man? And you just sort of, the amount of time, well, it's not quite the same, but like there's amount of times with my work, I won't say career, but stuff I've done with music where you're like, oh shit, this is it, this is gonna get, this is, and it's just like folds on its ass, and you're like, how the fuck did that happen? I remember it happened to me twice that I can remember really vividly. Like 2015, after putting a second Flame Griller out, and Adverse had just come back from Australia, we were like, right, let's fucking get it. And it just went and then again in 2020 I'd just come out, second album, Swinging, and then COVID, and you're like, oh fuck. A very common story with a lot of musicians, but shit just fizzles for one reason or another, and like you're left sort of going, do I start a new thing, or am I trying to bring this phoenix, like trying to bring it out of the ashes, you know what I mean? Like,
exactly, man. And that's why I think that music has to serve this other purpose of, rather than just the outward goal. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to be able to look at your work and go, my one life on this earth, I needed to get that out of me, you know what I mean? And that needed to serve me a purpose that was arguably bigger than streams or sales.
Yep.
It needed to be about my individual progression as well as a person. And I couldn't have got anywhere if I didn't do that project.
Of course,
you know
of course, yeah.
And that's deep, because we're trained to think in terms of external success and measure ourselves by those.
More than ever these days, isn't it? Like,
right. But if we were all honest, like, most of us picked up a pen or picked up a mic because there was a feeling in us that it needed to be done. Because if we were thinking about the pension or we were thinking about the money, there's so many more careers we could have gone into.
Yeah, really.
Like music might be somewhere near the bottom to be like, right, how are you going to have an affluent future? And that's what I tell kids and young people, and like, I'm doing a project at the minute where it's run by Noah Burton, who
the old drummer for Extracurricular, right?
Exactly, he was a multi-talented musician. But
do you know what I found out who his brother was the other week? Sorry to interrupt. Sangria Kong.
Okay,
he was a producer who in Leeds, West Yorkshire, done stuff with all sorts. Mental.
Cool. So that's how you know him.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So
you're doing a project, with Noah.
He's running a project called Volume Up,
Okay.
Where he's working with a load of young musicians around the area, and I'd been asked to be one of the mentors for it. And some of the stuff I was telling him was like, think about other ways of making an income through your skills, so you can still be yourself.
Yeah.
But because music, none of us are guaranteed a living off this, or let alone a good living.
100%.
You know what I mean?
You've done a really good job, I think, of like changing the avenue of where you can make money from while staying true to like the art, because you are effectively making money from hip hop, whichever way you look at it, and your ability
Definitely.
and your hard work. It's not like you went, I'll just do a bit of office work and stamp the
I did
thing.
that
like,
all.
we all
I did
have
all
to
that.
do that.
Yeah.
But you've managing now. I think it's as impressive as selling an album and making the money for the mortgage is what you're doing now. And I don't know whether we can talk about this. I hope we can a bit. You mentioned to me that you were working on a play. You've already talked about the book as well, that you wrote a book of poetry. Yeah. So there's a play in the works.
Testament has been helping me with some stuff on that.
Yeah.
And Testament's an absolute legend.
Yeah.
From multiple directions. A guy I've known since 16 when I first did an open mic.
Really?
With Jay
Faversham, where was it?
It was a place called
Bohemia?
Strawberry Fields or something.
Oh, okay.
It's near it's like a little bar in Leeds.
Okay, nice. And you were there for that? Damn.
Yeah, that's when I first met him, and he invited me, and then he invited Simple, and I came with Simple, and we did a thing, and then, So there's a lot of history, man. When we talk about WY and we talk about like this area and all that, for me, I have been to London and met some important people. I've been people who are important to me, not in, I don't believe in this important people thing.
Word.
But, and around the world, you pick people up and, meet people and all that kind of stuff. But, man, my roots have been I feel so grateful for the people I've met in this area.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It has a lot to offer, West Yorkshire, man. There's if the community just worked a little bit better together. But I've had this conversation where that's all well and good, but if you have the community, you get shit people coming through, and you have to kind of big them up at the same time, and you kind of want them to realise their shit. But there are some like absolute pinnacles of community. I think, yourself included, Home Cut, Jack Jets and Lunacy, people who've like got massive export value outside of West Yorkshire. It's like how much their export value is worth, their GDP to West Yorkshire is worth outside of, what I mean? And it's like you guys are.
It's an interesting way of looking at it. I think the thing is, what you can do is be, like people who've got some experience now, like people like me and Luna and, anybody that's been doing music for years. And it's just to help other people who, like I was describing before, in this area, there's no roadmap. No. You know what I mean? Like, there isn't even regular nights to always go to, you know what I mean? And that's why it's like kudos to what you're doing with this, with your posts online, with your night that you're running. There needs to be hubs and places where people come together just to meet each other, just to chat, just to vibe off each other.
To know what's going on and stuff.
Exactly.
Like, innit? The amount of times I remember, this is an affront to you, but I came and did a gig in Huddersfield at the parish. This is going back 6-7 years. And some guy came up to me afterwards like, oh, that's sick. There's no hip hop in Huddersfield at all. And I'm like, what the fuck do you mean? Yeah. There's so many rappers in Huddersfield. Like, guy had never heard of like Spider Lee or Alt
so
Light.
How
the fuck are we still at that point? Like, everyone should know about him, man.
That's what I'm saying. But there's no thing here to lift you up. You know what I mean? There isn't that. And it's not an area known for that.
Nah.
So the next generation that come through, the younger people, it's kind of like the least you can do is, provide that easy. Is provide that mentorship, man. Just in any way you can. Just to be like, like them shit people that you talk about. It's like literally just be like, bro, on this beat, I'm not seeing you.
Yeah,
I think you're trying something, but I'm not seeing you.
It's difficult to get that wrong without like upsetting an ego or feeling like you're some sort of gatekeeper. You don't want to be in that position of like,
it's tricky ground, man.
Like, yeah, it's tricky ground. Yeah, better just keeping your mouth shut. Usually,
sometimes, yeah, definitely. But you could also just ask someone. It's like, yo, listen, if you ever wanted to chat about your work, I can.
Yeah. I'm ready for some criticism for you.
I've got a folder of criticism.
I would as well. I'm the guy with the folder for that shit.
Bro, when you blew my mind the other time, when I came to your studio about a few months ago over winter when we were doing the Jamettone jam, and someone mentioned something about the WY Cypher, and you came out with the binder.
I just had to
and
show
said
you
were here on this day. Or
yeah. I rated you out. I rated every rapper's performance out of 5, just so we'd know where to like grab stuff from and all the rest of it, man. Like organising it into his life.
You're a historian in that way.
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
like
yeah.
the Nardwar.
Obsessed with that shit. Yeah,
you're the WY Nardwar.
A little bit like that, man. I don't want that to be my my legacy. I'd like it to be like songs, but it is looking a lot like it. The Excel spreadsheets are going to last longer than that.
It's both. Actually, I'm going to be honest, because you've been so complimentary to me. It's like, I've looked at you and what you do with your music, man, and like...
Is this recording? Yeah.
And is that all time?
Oh, shit, man. Yeah. Nice to see you, man.
Nah, and it's shit, man. No, I'm joking. Imagine.
Criticism.
Exactly.
Here's my binder, bro.
Yeah. No, and I'm like, I'm looking at it like, no, this dude's been so consistent, and I love, you know, every song is a concept, an idea. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
that's all I've got.
But that's a huge thing to have, man.
Safe, man. Safe.
You're sick, innit? Like,
thanks,
and you're one of the people that for a certain number of years I slept on. Do
really?
You know what I mean? Yeah,
Motherfucker.
definitely. No, not because of that, but because I was so hyper focused on what I was doing.
This is it, man. I was just about to say, it's always the way, innit? Like, I'll sleep on enough people just because I'm like, the majority of my listening hours are spent on unmixed stuff that I'm trying to get right, or stuff that people have sent me that I need to, like, you know what I mean, improve or whatever.
Or something else that's not music. Because, do you know what I mean? Like, you need to break away from it. Like,
get a sorbet in there, like, yeah.
Exactly, man. That palate cleanser, you need it.
Exactly,
so, I mean, there's a few people, like, and it's never anything personal. And that's the thing I think when you talk about, like, bringing another generation through and all that, to not conflate that, you know, that personal. And, like, even with people like Imran and Shedmen, I slept on them for ages.
Really?
Yeah, it was only going back recently and listening to them.
Oh, after
you posted it.
Yeah,
I thought I was on the train to London, and I thought I'm going to listen to this album, the And What album.
Yeah.
Because I haven't heard it for years. And then I listened to it and I thought, yeah, I recognise about 50% of it. And then I thought, did I even ever listen to it all the way through? And if that's the case, that's really poor, man.
Just
do you know what I mean? Because then we're not
friends. Yeah. There's no excuse in that circumstance.
But it's almost because you are friends.
Yeah.
That
I had that J Simple moment with Shedmen. It was going back 2006, I want to say, and me and J&D were doing little bits on stage here and there, and we went through to Bar 120 or whatever it was called. And all three of them were on stage performing stuff from Boys in the Wood.
Yeah.
And it was like, I'd never seen anything like it in my fucking life.
You loved it.
It was fucking amazing, man. Just like, and they were funny and they were bouncing around. They just had a vibe. Imran had them dreads. Do you know what I mean? It was just, it was the most Jurassic 5 thing I'd ever seen from West Yorkshire. And I was like...
So I think that part of the shift was when I was younger, I was looking at everyone wanting them to fit into a very specific model. And it just so happened that's the same model that I was doing.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if they didn't, then I'd be a bit like, yeah, I see it, but like I'm not, you know. But as I've got older, it's less about thinking about the way things should be and just accepting the way things are and being open to things. And then you actually see the light that those things are bringing. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, man. And then there's a difference between that and someone who's not doing something well because they're not doing it well. Because they haven't actually got the craft right yet. And that's the conversation that you have about the criticism. You know what I mean? And that's very different from saying this is not to my taste. But if you frame the conversation right, you can say, bro, I can probably help you with a couple of things.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then it becomes, often when you find that, you get into a conversation with someone and you realise they're very aware of the bit that needs improvement.
Of course,
as well, you know what I mean?
I think the face-to-face conversation is so important and so undervalued these days because we're all sat on Instagram like sharing stories or whatever and not talking about each other, or maybe you think certain things about me but I don't even know. And it isn't until you literally get face-to-face with people before you can actually break down those things and go, oh, actually they're a really sound guy and they were open to like chatting about stuff and all the rest of it. Like, I think people get out of their heads in that circumstance.
I agree. I think we all think it's enough to do the Instagram thing.
It's just not, but you have to do it. So then it takes up so much space in your time.
You do have to participate in that, and it's really useful tool, but it's not enough, man. Like again, like we're making music. Do you know what I mean? When you're making music, it's supposed to be a communal experience. It's supposed to be with other people.
Yeah.
Like I spent loads of nights a few years ago mixing in isolation or working on stuff in isolation.
Just your shit.
And I hated it. I was going to bed thinking, this is not fun. This is not fulfilling. This has got nothing to do with music. And then in my mind, I juxtaposed it with the experiences that I could think of when I'm in a room with live musicians or when I'm freestyling. It's a moment. And it's like, this is not what I signed up for, and what am I even doing it for? You know what I mean? So some people might have a different tolerance to sitting and mixing, and those are probably the people who pursue being an engineer and a mixer by trade. But yeah, and you know what? That's fine. But for me, it was like I just had to. So with this album, I outsourced it to somebody else.
Oh, really? What, the recording or the mixing of it?
No, I did. I quite enjoy recording.
Yeah.
But the mixing of it, yeah.
Nice.
And he's great, man. He's
Can
a guy.
We know who is it?
So he's a guy that contacted me on Instagram, actually. And he is the hypocrite. I've never actually met him in person.
Oh, no way. And you've trusted him when you're mixing your album, man?
Yeah, because we did a couple of tunes before. We sort of tested the water. He's called Ollie. He goes by the name of Handstand Boy.
Okay.
And he's very sick. So every track that I've sent him was probably 70%. And he's
got it to that level.
I didn't know it was 70% until he kind of picked it up.
Yeah.
But just really sick at what he's doing. And I can't stress how much I needed that. To get this album was very much like getting things in place for me. Because a few years ago, I thought I could just do everything myself.
Yeah.
But that's overload,
I
man.
still feel like that myself.
It's a lot, man.
It is a lot to take on.
And it depends what you're trying to do. I was actually trying to go, and you'll hear it when this album comes out. I've pushed a little bit sonically and musically somewhere else that I've not been.
Nice.
And I couldn't get there by myself. Just couldn't. And you just have to accept that.
Every great album in the history of time has involved collaborations at every level. You know what I mean? You look at some of the best, and they're literally got producers on producers. Like,
exactly. And this new album, I don't have one rap feature on it. But there's probably 12 or 13 people who've contributed
involved
to the album.
in it, yeah. I love the feeling of that when you've done it. Like, all my last 3 albums have been like no features. But there've been people involved in like the musician. I can't play guitar, I'll get a guitarist or whatever. But it's glorious to like be like, yeah, but that's me. Like, you know, all me otherwise, like, apart from all the other people.
Well, there's a satisfaction, and this again goes back to that intrinsic motivation that I was talking about creating music for. There's an intense satisfaction for closing the book on a project and going, that's done, and that's as good as it could be, and then that is done, and then the magic starts to happen because then it's out in the world and it does stuff that you can't imagine. Do you know what I mean?
And people will feel a track that you were like, that one, that was like a
throwaway.
Nearly didn't put that on the album, and then that'll be the one that everyone's feeling. It's so strange, and as soon as you no longer own the art because it's out there, it's like it just does its own thing, which is, it's beautiful but also like a bit scary as well.
It is scary, of course it is. I mean, that's something you've worked on, overthought about, crafted, and now you're going to release it to anything, to criticism, to joy, to love, to whatever.
Yeah.
And even then, do you know how to deal with someone loving your music? Do you know what I mean? Like, are you ready for that?
Compliments. I'm terrible with them.
I used to be terrible at
try and change the conversation. Usually me.
Yeah. I used to be terrible at them. And now I just sort of say thank you and accept them and realize
I appreciate you saying that, bro. It means a lot to me.
I know.
So you've got these stock answers.
I hate the stock answers, man.
Do you absorb them? Because one thing, I mean, this is getting a bit deep, but I've had to do quite a bit of therapy recently because I multiple reasons, but basically I don't absorb joy at all.
Okay.
Like, or everything bad. So anything like slightest bit that I could take as like a negative criticism towards me, I will take in bed and make my body out of it. But anything positive is just like, just water for ducks back. So I've been trying.
This is very present in your music as well.
Yeah. Well, at least I write about what I know,
innit?
But so I've been trying more to kind of like almost hold on to a compliment, but I'm still failing miserably with it. Like, I don't know. I don't know whether you're doing better with it, because you must spend your life with people going, fucking hell. And do you like hold on to that, and does it help you write, or do you never use that as like inspiration? The fact that, I tell you why I'm saying this, like, if you're writing a track for this album and you're like, people are going to be feeling this, or are you just like, I'm feeling this, fuck everyone else?
I've tried to do that. I've tried to get to the place of like, this is a tune that I've done for me, and I will live and die by it. You know what I mean? And then it's like, I've tried to use things like craft things about the craft where this should work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when people come up and they say stuff complimentary, or they tell me, like, I get a lot of people saying they cry to my music. Like, that's the thing.
I've had that occasionally, and that's probably the one that sticks, really, man. For it to have that emotional change to people, that's glorious, isn't it? Like,
I think what I realized was, their compliment is not actually about me. It's about them and their experience. And it just so happened that the thing that they're having an experience with came from me.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make me sick. You know what I mean? I could walk out of that same room and be a dick to someone. Do you know what I mean? That does, and that, you know what I mean? That's all the rich character that you are.
Yeah.
so you can't just walk away from that and let it blow your head up.
No, of course.
But what it often does is give me a confidence that when you doubt yourself, and every artist does doubt themselves. This is the other thing I've learned. Everybody doubts themselves. Is it just helps with that bit of confidence? It goes, you know what I'm doing works, and when we say work, we mean what I do. What I'm doing is valuable. Do you know what I mean? And that's what you want to know, that you're bringing value out there. A lot of times musicians, actually, when I listen to them, especially young ones, they talk about wanting to be successful and rich. But what I actually think they mean is they just want to know what they do counts. Do you know what I mean?
It's made an impact, isn't it?
It's made an impact.
Yeah.
And a lot of musicians could be really satisfied by finding a way to bring their work to a crowd which will affirm that back to them. And we're just trained as capitalists to think that has to mash in with the music as well. You know what I mean? And often it doesn't. It doesn't. You know, you could find that it's very satisfying for someone to just have performed the right song to the right audience and to have an ecosystem of this love and joy that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Obviously, everyone wants money. You know what I mean?
Course,
I'm not like
we'd all love to be. You'd love to sell that album and like be able to live off it for 3 years.
And you'd love a lifestyle where you don't have to do anything else.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Of course we would.
Be in the studio the whole time.
Of course we would. Everybody would.
Yeah.
But like, what about the reality of where you are? You know what I mean? How are you going to get to there? And what's actually like if you don't unpick the emotional reasons you make music, if you don't actually go to the core of what this thing is about, then it's going to run you and you won't run it. And that's so I'm glad to hear that you're going to therapy and you're learning those things, man.
It took a long time.
That's one way of doing it.
It took a long time to convince me to do it, but it was the best decision I ever made.
Who convinced you to do it?
My wife mainly. To be fair, I was. I mean, this is not what this podcast is meant to be about, but I'll go into it very briefly. I was flying off the handle at shit and like letting things build up to a certain point, but I had a lot was wrapped in my dad's death as well. So it was just like I'd let my aggression get pent up and then punch a hole in a wall,
sure.
a shitty plasterboard wall, not anything that requires any strength, but just do stuff like that and fuck things up. And anyway, needed to go to therapy and really unpick who the fuck I was and how I was brought up and all the rest of it, and learned a lot about myself. It doesn't mean that I was cured, but at least I was aware of why the fuck I was doing things.
Sorry to hear about your dad, first of all.
Oh, safe, man. Thanks.
But also, I think at this age, at this stage of life...
Yeah, you're about the same, innit? 38.
So I'm 37, yeah. 37, right. And a lot of people that I know are going through very similar things. And it's about unpicking that.
It's like self-reflection, isn't it? And like, also reaching a certain point in your life where you know there isn't that much time, but you're young and free and relatively pain-free. It's like, right, what are we doing? What are we going to do? Exactly. Like, is this going to be okay now? Am I going to be happy at 70 going, well, I was 38 and made some stupid fucking decisions? Like,
and doing it efficiently.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because you don't necessarily, when you're in your 20s, it's all about running around. It's using all that energy. It's about trying stuff. It's about, let me throw myself into these mad situations and see where they go. We ain't doing that now. I ain't doing that because I've got to be more efficient and that's why I say, like, pick apart what it is that we're doing and really know what's at the core of it, because that's going to inform the next thing that you do, so you can do it better and that you can do it in a more you way. Like, for instance, your work, those themes that keep coming out of your work are stuff like the grievances. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the kind of mundanity of life and all that sort of stuff that you are frustrated by. But you also represent everybody else who's frustrated by those things. And that's a large amount of people, you know, and that's so there's a lot for people to relate to.
I certainly have a demographic, but they're all over 35.
But that's fine. It doesn't even matter. You know what I mean? That's all good. They're human beings resonating with music.
Word, that's a beautiful thing.
And the thing is, when I think about that, I think that you are a spokesperson for that mentality.
Word.
But if that lives in you and that's there, then that's cool.
Definitely. Yeah. It's ideal, isn't it? Yeah.
So it's about being more of who you are, and that's what I think. That's how you be more comfortable in your own skin and a better performer and a better musician and a better human being. That's literally, you know, so music will do that to you though. Definitely. Not everybody has a tool where they get to record their innermost and then hear it back. Do you know what I mean?
What a beautiful thing to have that. Me and J&D used to say this was our therapy before even therapy. Like, it is just something that you can finally get that off my chest. It's why I've never really understood the the like bar, horrible, just for the sake of like writing nasty bars. But I get people are letting something off their chest. But I've always felt as like, I'm feeling like this, let's get it down. You know what I mean?
What do you mean? Sorry,
So you obviously get plenty of good rappers who are just like simile after simile, but they're not about anything. I respect it, and some of them are very, very good at it.
Yeah.
But I've never understood how you could offload any emotion that you're feeling in that doing that kind of music. I think.
Doesn't it blow your mind though that for some rappers they use this same format as a completely different tool?
Totally.
Like for me, it's like when I listen to some people, I think, man, that's literally about you having a love affair with words and just trying to find them, like how to spin them in a different way. For me, a lot of the time I need to have this underlying emotional intelligence to my work.
Yeah.
And I've dropped some of the barry stuff. You know what I mean? I started off with
you did
more
start
barry
more,
stuff.
kind of punchlines and that,
And I've dropped it a little bit more because it's kind of like, well, it don't feel satisfying unless I go there. But every now and again, I just want to write bars.
Of course,
because I just want to play with the language and just be like, let me MC.
Yeah.
And then
when you were freestyling, certainly at the Cypher, the majority of it were bars. You weren't
it
wasn't content as much. It was more like trying to make a reaction out of people who were there, which was cool, man. Like
this is true. But when I'm in the car and I'm driving by myself,
it's content.
That's like some mad therapy. That's like watching some madman rant, but it rhymes, so it's cool.
Sick. I wanted to quickly talk to you because we did brush over it because you mentioned Noah. I wanted to talk to you about Extracurricular because there again feels like another fizzled kind of who the fuck knows where that could have gone in a parallel universe. Because like fuck me, you had Tabo and Ruby Wood singing, who are amazing. Never mind the backline musicians who are all sick as fuck. Like, how long did that go on for? Was it about 5-6 years in the end? Because you just done a gig recently with them, to be fair. But
so this is the madness. Is again another project which had all the hallmarks of jet fuel being underneath it, and then burning out. And
felt like you were everywhere at that point when you started cooking. You guys like
we were like
to be reckoned with.
Yeah, we were starting off somewhat, but it just never got to that. Just as it was probably about to do, like we just got the management, we started to talk about record labels and stuff like that. It just fizzled out. The big thing was the three front musicians was me, Tabo, and Ruby.
Yeah.
And Ruby was in a relationship with Noah, and that relationship broke down. Ruby then was going through some life stuff and was moving down to London and left the band.
Yep.
She was also working heavily with Submotion Orchestra.
Oh, word.
And Ruby's such an amazing musician that it doesn't matter where you put her, she sounds
she'll
great.
She'll be amazing, yeah.
And she'll, you know, like she'll be
There'll
very
always
much
be opportunities in the industry for a singer like that. Like.
Absolutely, and she's fantastic, and she's doing a lot of solo stuff now, and we've just done a song together for her for a
is
solo
that on your
project.
Album?
No, she is on my album.
Oh, cool.
But it was the one I'm referring to is a different one for. Well, I don't know what she'll do with it actually, but anyway, we've done it.
Sick.
Anyway, so yeah, Extracurricular. When Ruby left, then I started to be like, well, this is just me and Tabo up front. Are we going to replace Ruby? We're not. Then I was starting to be like, I want to go explore something else. I've put in loads of time, as everybody did, to this project.
Yep.
It just kind of fizzled.
Yeah.
And then once it was gone, but it's always represented this really special few years and this really special connection for all of us.
Yeah.
So last year, a project came to Huddersfield and it took over this where we're sat at the minute, and it was called Heard, and it was funded by the Curricular Year of Music.
Yeah.
It was run by a company in London called ApaTight, and when they came up to do it, they did a load of R&D and they looked at the history of like music in Kirklees and stuff.
Yeah.
And they found us all individually, and they kept talking to us all, like me, Tabo, Ruby, and then this Extracurricular thing came out, and he said went back and watched some Extracurricular stuff and said, can we get you back together for this project?
We're getting the band together, guys.
So, yeah, exactly. And we literally went through that, and we went in a room together and wrote this song. They give us a brief for this song, and we wrote this song, and it felt like it did in the old times.
Amazing.
It was incredible. And then we had the chance to perform it at the Tate Modern in London, and at the Lawrence Batley Theatre.
Any chance of any resurgence?
Yeah,
or
I think
there conversation?
so. There's conversations about it, and it will manifest in some way, but it hasn't yet.
Okay.
So
good luck with it, man. I hope it happens, because it feels like, I mean, there have been times where you've put like session musicians or different musicians together to play while you performed your tracks like on keys and rapping and stuff.
Yeah.
But like, it would be good to see Extracurricular back in the hood.
I think we keep talking about this idea of building it in, like say Noah was running this mentorship project and kind of put the two together and do something with it. You know what I mean? Because you've actually got a whole host of really diverse musicians. And shout out to Chungy and Jack as well, who form the backline, and Chungy's on the guitar and Jack's on the bass.
Yeah.
And there's something there, I think, that is bubbling and there's enough to pull from.
Definitely, man. Considering the success of a band like Mouse Outfit you've seen, I just think there's so much opportunity there for a sick live band with like the right singer, the right songs. Like, there's no reason why not. I do hope that comes back together, man.
Man, we'll see. We haven't got the time and the space that we had when we were young like that to put in the serious amount of time that we did, but something will come for sure.
Sick, man.
Yeah.
We're pretty much going to sign off, but I've got to present you with something first of all.
Okay.
You alluded before to the fact that you joined Jamettone for a session last year.
Yeah.
All freestyling, playing a bit of piano as well. I think you freestyled on 2 or 3 tracks.
Yeah.
And every year we have like a bit of an award ceremony because there's so many tracks that go through, and we did 779 tracks all last year.
Wow, that's crazy.
And then voted on the top 3 tracks based on like my rating system and then sort of like other people's favourites as well. 18 voters from 29 members. 1 got 3, 1 got 5, and 1 track got 10, which won the jam track of the year, or the JTOTY, and that was yours, bro. So there is Francesco Totti.
Whoa, here he is.
Represented. So thanks
Big
for joining us.
Totti.
We're going to do that again because that was going to come out at some point.
That's
that was
the
absolutely
Jamettone.
incredible, man.
Oh, man.
For you freestyling and then coming up with a concept track and a chorus all in that moment, honestly, it's a thing to behold. So that'll be out at some point. But
wicked, man.
Listen, Jack Flash, aka Rob Bradley, aka Jack Flash again.
Yeah.
It's been a fucking pleasure, man. Thank you so much for joining us. You jumped up like his best. Big fuck up, man.
Respect, bro. Nice one.
Ah, man, what a chat. What a guy. Big up Rob, big up Jack Flash. It's just, go and listen to his music if you haven't already, but you probably already are familiar with it. Keep an eye out for that album that Low Hanging Fruit dropped from. It's going to be a big one, I think. So big the fuck up for coming through, Rob, and big up to you for listening.